Welcome to the Fresno City College Psychology Department's video tutorial focusing on the difference between random sampling and random assignment. This is one of a series of video tutorials on topics related to the experimental method of research. There's a lot to learn about the experimental method, so this video will only focus on the basics of what you need to know to clearly differentiate random sampling from random assignment. Specifically, I will address the following vocabulary. Within the context of research, what does it mean to refer to a population or the population? What is a sample? We will review three terms used to describe samples: random, representative, and convenience. What does it mean to talk about the participants? What does it mean when a researcher talks about the generalizability of research? And finally, what is random assignment? What group are the researchers aimed at understanding? Who do they want to know about? This could be a very narrowly defined group like full-time instructors at Fresno City College, or a very large group like all community college instructors in the United States of America. The point of research is to be able to draw some conclusions about a group of people based on the collected evidence. All of the people that fit that category belong to the target population. But are the researchers going to be able to observe all of those people? If the population is large, like all community college instructors in the USA, all American men diagnosed with diabetes, all Russian-born immigrants to the US, I think you get the point. Then, of course, the answer is no. The researchers will not be able to observe everyone in that population. The best they can do is observe a subset of that population. Researchers refer to that subset as the sample. Let's just say that these people are a population of college instructors. You'll have to imagine that there are lots more of them, okay? Let's say that there are just too many of them to observe all of them. We cannot observe all of them, but we can observe some of them. We can observe a sample of them. Of course, the whole point of the research is that we want to be able to draw some conclusions about our entire population of college instructors. So we need to choose our sample wisely. The term that we use to describe the extent that we can take what we learned about the sample and apply that to our understanding of the population is generalizability. We say that we want to generalize conclusions from the sample to the population. There are many different types of samples and different ways to describe the samples. In this video, you are going to learn how to answer the questions: what's a random sample? What's a representative sample? And what's a convenience sample? Then you will be able to make some judgments about the generalizability of the research based on the characteristics of the sample. The psychology department believes strongly that it is important for all of us to be good consumers of research. This means that you are given some tools to evaluate and make some judgments about the research that you hear or read someplace, like on the radio or in social media. You'll learn more about different types of samples if you take a statistics or a research methods class. What's a random sample? With a random sample, every individual in the target population has an equal chance of being selected. One way to do that is to assign each individual a number and then have a computer auto-generate the selections at random. While that may sound pretty simple, there are many considerations that complicate the matter, but this is a basic introduction, so we'll stick with a basic explanation. What's a representative sample? If we have a representative sample, then we can say that the sample accurately reflects the characteristics of the population. Let's say that our population has an equal number of 5 different types of people. A representative sample would therefore have an equal number of these 5 different types of people. Use of a random sampling method helps us end up with a representative sample most of the time. Of course, it is possible to end up with an unrepresentative sample that slightly overrepresents or underrepresents one or more of the groups. It is not likely when using a random sampling method to end up with a severely unrepresentative sample. It might be easier to see using pie charts. You see in the population pie chart that 20% are from Category A, but our sample is only 12% from Category A. Category B is pretty close, with 12% of the population and 13% in our sample. Category C makes up 8% of our population, but a whopping 30% of our sample. And Category D makes up 65% of our population, but only 45% of our sample. This unrepresentative sample poses problems for the generalizability of our research. Remember, generalizability refers to the extent that we can take what we learned about the sample and apply that to our understanding of the population. It does not necessarily mean that we should completely discard the findings. We need to be critical of the findings, draw conclusions with caution, and decide whether or not to conduct the research with a new sample. Let's turn now to a convenience sample. A convenience sample is made up of members of the population who are easily available to us. The entire population of community college instructors would not be readily available to us, but a sample comprised of all Fresno City College instructors is available. It is convenient to email all of them. Narrowing the population of all community college instructors to just the convenience of all FCC instructors still might be too many for us to observe. So we could take a random sample of our convenience sample by using computer software to randomly select a smaller sample. Before we finally move on to random assignment, I want to say something about sample size. People often mistakenly believe that a larger sample size is always better than a smaller sample size, but this is not necessarily the case. Remember that the goal is to end up with a representative sample that allows us a certain degree of confidence in our ability to generalize to the population. Let me illustrate with an example. There are 28 icons on the slide. Let's say that each one represents 1,000 people. So a large sample might include 12 of them, representing 12,000 people, which is nearly 43%. A small sample might just include 6 of them, representing 6,000 people, which is only about 21%. But all 12,000 were women, which would pose concerns of a possible gender bias. The sample of only 6,000 is a mixed group, and therefore may actually be a better sample. Oh, and by the way, we call the individuals in the sample the participants, although in my younger days we called them subjects. So you could hear that term used as well. Participants sounds much more humane than subjects, don't you think? Okay, so we have taken quite a bit of time to discuss not just random sampling, but also other concepts related to sampling. Now it's time to finally get to the difference between random sampling and random assignment. Random sampling refers to a technique used to ensure that every individual in the population has an equal chance of being selected to participate in the research. If the sample is then going to be divided into groups, then random assignment will be used to divide them up. So random assignment refers to a technique used to ensure that every individual in the sample has an equal chance of being placed in each of the groups. Random assignment is a technique that is applied when researchers are using the experimental method. We'll go over just enough of the experimental method to help you be able to differentiate random sampling from random assignment. The experimental method, as with all methods of research, starts with identifying participants. If we cannot observe the entire population of interest, then we must identify a sample of participants. At this point, you should be asking, is this a random sample? And of course, now you know that this means that each individual in the population of interest had an equal chance of being selected to participate. Since this is an experiment, then there will be different groups. But which participant will be in each group? In order to avoid bias, we are going to use a random method again. Each participant will be randomly assigned to a group. And now you know that random assignment means that each individual in the sample has an equal chance of being placed in each of the groups. What happens next and all the details of an experiment are covered in a different video tutorial. In this video, we went over what researchers mean when they refer to the population versus the sample. We also went over what it means to say random sample, representative sample, and convenience sample. We discussed the terms participants and generalizability, and we went over how random assignment is different from random sampling. Let's complete a few multiple choice quiz questions before we conclude. A group of educational psychologists are interested in the effect of exam paper color on the test performance of community college students. They hypothesized that students would perform better on white paper. They conduct some research on 3 campuses in a total of 24 introductory psychology classes. Students either take their exam on white paper, blue paper, yellow paper, or green paper. The population in this research is best described as A. All community college students, B. The students from the 3 campuses, C. The students in the 24 psychology classes, or D. The students who took the test on white paper. Pause the video now to give yourself some time to correctly answer the question. The correct answer is A. All community college students. The population is the greater target group that the researchers are wanting to understand. In that same research just described, the sample is best described as A. All community college students, B. The students from the 3 campuses, C. The students in the 24 psychology classes, or D. The students who took the test on white paper. Pause the video now to give yourself some time to correctly answer the question. The answer is C. The students in the 24 psychology classes. The sample is made up of the actual participants in the experiment. Let's do one more that's related to that same exam paper color and test performance research. The sample is best described as A. Convenience sample, B. Population sample, or C. Random sample. Pause the video now to give yourself enough time to correctly answer the question. The correct answer is A. Convenience sample. There's no such thing as a population sample. I just made that one up in order to have another option. And it was not a random sample. That would have meant that the researchers chose from the greater target population, with each one of them having an equal chance of being selected. They did not do that. They used the sample of students that was readily or conveniently available to them. Here's the last multiple choice quiz question. Which of the following does the most to improve the generalizability of research findings? Is it A. Random assignment, or B. A representative sample? Pause the video now if you need time to correctly identify the answer. The answer is a representative sample. Random assignment would not do anything to improve the generalizability of the research if the sample was not representative to begin with. This concludes the Fresno City College Psychology Department's video tutorial focusing on the difference between random sampling and random assignment. Thank you.